It is that time again. Wednesday, 5:30. This is the place to be. How to CPCU. How are you, Heather?
I am fantastic. Gearing up for that albeit small turkey event tomorrow.
Yeah. We were definitely just joking offline. I think I'm going to be eating leftovers from Thanksgiving for probably the next year and a half.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are closing out strong before the holiday weekend. Those of you who do get off Thursday and Friday, God bless. I'll be back at it on Friday, but we are closing out prior to the holiday here Thursday with How to CPCU. For those who are unfamiliar, whether you're watching live or on recording, this is the show put on by the we throw it through the New Jersey CPCU chapter social media feeds, but this is put on by Heather and myself as representatives of the CPCU Society and volunteer leaders within the society, letting everyone know what's available within the society, the value that you can get, how you can get involved, and how it can help you professionally and maybe even personally along the way. So just to talk about some really quick business items here, regardless of how you watch, please like, comment, subscribe, and share or retweet. Get this message out there. Let other CPCUs and insurance professionals know what we are talking about and what kind of value that they can derive from the CPCU designation and the society. Whew. So that's out of the way. So now, Heather, what are we talking about this week?
I think we're going to talk a little bit about Circle of Excellence, which is that super awesome thing that the society does for the chapters as well as for the interest groups to kind of, I think it's kind of like your showcase moment. Like, this is what you've done in the year in your chapter to really serve the needs of your members and to reach out in your communities as well. So yeah, that's on the agenda for tonight, Matt.
Yep. It's really, how should I put it? It's kind of the way that we keep score, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily that like each one of the chapters, some of the chapters get competitive. Actually, I'm kind of disappointed because if I remember, let's see, how far back was this? It wasn't New Orleans. Maybe it was the Leadership Summit before, but wasn't there a bet between your chapter and Dallas as to who got higher points on the COE and whether or not you would have to do a music video of, was it Titanium? Was that it?
Yes, because we were trying to convince the society that they needed another level of the Circle of Excellence beyond Platinum, and we wanted to kick it up to Titanium. I have no idea what time of night that we came up with that idea. Yeah, and then we had, I think that was last year's Leadership Summit, and then we ended up, what was it, virtual this year for Leadership Summit, of course. So all of us kind of slunk around with our heads hanging low because we didn't have to sing Titanium in front of everybody.
I was going to say, file that under only the best decisions are made after midnight.
Right. That's right.
But so anyway, not that there's any direct competition on the part of the chapters, or this also applies to the interest groups as well. But it is kind of how we keep score. So the idea being that there are different tiers. I think right now the different tiers are, let's see, the highest level is platinum, right? So that's obviously what you're always kind of striving for. But then on top of that, what is it? It's gold below that, and then the third one, is it bronze?
I think it's bronze.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bronze is the third one. Yep. So,
Mhm.
if you qualify for any of those three, it's basically a confirmation that you're running a chapter or an interest group that's doing a fair amount to engage the membership and really bring value to the community as a whole. But so we wanted to kind of like dig into it really to, this is on the tail end of our episode last week, if you haven't watched it, that really talks about membership engagement and creating a chapter that's really kind of like interesting and pulls people in and gets them active and things like that.
Yeah.
So this is kind of how you keep score with that. So the CPCU Society website, and again, I don't know if this is available. I think this is visible even if you don't sign in, but obviously you can see I'm signed in at the top. But this is under the resources, chapters and resources tab. Kind of tells you a little bit about the Circle of Excellence. And really what it's based off of is each chapter ends up creating, and each IG for that matter, creates an operating plan a year ahead. So if you see the link right there is still for 2020. So about this time last year, everyone was creating their 2020 operating plan. And then about 2 or 3 months into the year, they pretty much just crumpled it up and threw it out the window. But yeah, so that's basically the way it goes. You kind of set up an operating plan for the year. So you're taking a measured approach. And hopefully you're planning enough so that you get points towards the Circle of Excellence so that you can get one of those 3 levels of achievement. How do you guys usually find your planning process at your chapter, Heather? Is it something that you pretty much know everything you're going to do before the year starts, or does it kind of evolve over time?
I think it evolves over time most of the time. I mean, we have a plan for the activities that are going to go on and the regular normal activities that would go on every single year within the chapter. But like you said, we kind of crumpled that up and went boom
Yeah.
and started over again this year, just because of the nature of what this year has been all about. But it is kind of like we utilize one of our board meetings to be able to kind of sit down, because we actually have a director that deals with Circle of Excellence in our chapter. And they have a committee that works with them as well. But it's all about the compilation of the activities. But I like to also think of Circle of Excellence kind of operating plan, but also like goal casting. Like, what do we want to do this year to really meet the goals of what our chapter is going to do for the members? And they have that planning document that helps you out quite a bit to be able to lay out the goals and the things that you're going to do to accomplish the Circle of Excellence. And then of course our director, towards this time of year, because that information's due back to the society, I believe, by the end of the year, maybe by January 1. But everybody, there's a call from that director to report back and get the information back to them so that they can start compiling it to be able to prepare the report for the society.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And to that point, it is really good practice. So anyone who hasn't had a lot of career experience in terms of leading a department or even a team on a particular project or anything like that, this is almost kind of like really introductory, like project management 101, because there are certain, like you said, goals that you have to hit, and there's going to be certain activities or programs that you're going to put in place, or you're going to roll over from year to year and improve or tweak, that you're making sure to line up so that you hit those goals for that upcoming year. And so just really quickly, I can share kind of what the rubric looks like. It's not going to be anything that's like crazy, like beautiful to throw up here on the screen, but it's essentially just a spreadsheet, and you're kind of like looking through some of these activities based, and there are a couple of performance based goals and metrics that are on here. And I don't know if we necessarily want to walk through every single one, but if you notice, a lot of them align with certain aspects of the CPCU pillars, right? Like, so each one of those tenets of the CPCU designation also kind of live in some way, shape, or form here in the Circle of Excellence. So if you notice, you have, a providing relevant knowledge section. This is just basic chapter operations, but then you also have, engagement and visibility. You also have, the governance aspect of things. And then in here, you have things like mentoring, you have things like professional development, which is a commitment to, those tenets and those pillars of the CPCU designation. And then also things like ethics. So all of those are kind of hit on in here. What are some of your favorites, Heather? I mean, obviously there are some more procedural ones that are like, have people in these positions and stuff like that. But there are some other ones that are a little bit more fun. What are kind of some of your favorites?
I think my favorites, because we like to utilize a lot of the networking and the way that you reach your communicate and reach with your body of people that are within your chapter. Like, we utilize social media quite a bit to be able to reach out to our chapter, and I have fun compiling that one, because I've done that for a few years now for both the chapter as well as like the claims interest group too. And I just love to see those data analytics from Twitter and Facebook and everything that show like all the interactions that we've had with our particular group, because that's interacting in a different way. It's not a social event, and but you can make it a social event if you want to. You have to utilize your social accounts to be able to do that. So that's always been one of my favorite things when I get to dig into our Twitter analytics, especially for the various groups that we tweet out with.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's a good point too. I think some of that gets missed. I'm actually going to pull this down because I don't know how many, how well the font is showing up. But
Yeah.
so that's also something that maybe doesn't get a lot of attention, is there's an opportunity to do pretty much whatever you want. So there's a
Yeah.
community involvement piece and kind of like a giving back volunteering piece. So say you're someone who's really committed to, volunteering and kind of being active within the community. There's space there for you to be able to do something like that and plan an event or help kind of like build an event out from what it was the prior year. To your point, the whole social media aspect of things, there are tons of people that never even get their hands on like the company social media accounts.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of people that shouldn't get their hands on the social media accounts, probably me included.
Yeah.
But so you would never even, unless you were kind of like doing your own side hustle kind of thing, trying to figure out how to run a business using social media marketing, it would probably never even occur to you, right, to kind of run with some of those things. So yeah, those things are fun because they give you insight or experience into something maybe you would never even get to do. One of my favorites is the ethics event, because it's, so for me, the ethics events, they can be really bland, because if you do the same thing every single year, then it's just going to be, status quo, and you'll get the same handful of people to show up. We try and move it around, mix up the topics. We haven't done anything as adventurous as like, play acting or anything, or like role playing, but that
Yeah.
might be something in the near future, especially if we have to do it over Zoom again for 2021. But yeah, that's one of my favorites. And it's because the brokers in New Jersey require 3 hours of ethics CEs.
Yeah.
So, you typically get to see the brokers at those things, as opposed to some of the other events that might not be as kind of like sales based. So it gets a little bit also like a different audience that comes out to those things. What would you say the hardest part of either planning for or just executing on the COE is for you and your crew and your chapter?
I think I think one of the most difficult parts of it a lot of times is like, you may be in a chapter that you're the only person that carries this information.
Mm.
For my chapter, it's like that person who is in that COE director role has to reach out to like the entire board group and committees and all of those people and be the information grabber as well. And then of course obviously there's operational goals that are within here, like recruitment and retention goals, and you're pretty competitive about those because you want to keep the people that are in your chapter,
Yeah.
and trying to figure out ways that you can do that to be able to meet those goals, because they are a percentage of, you could retain a certain percentage of the chapter members. And as volunteer membership and a lot of different groups tends to wane. I think it's been great this year, actually, just because more people have joined because they feel like that they are definitely getting a lot more
Mm.
out of the chapters because of the capability for the virtual events. And it almost seems as if it's not as much work for people to be a part of our chapter this year too,
Yeah.
because they can tune in on Zoom and catch the iDay virtually. And we got some great feedback about our iDay, that because it was virtual, people felt like that they could be more engaged because it didn't require that they were gone from the office, or office is now home, but it didn't require that they were gone for a full day from their work events. So those types of things, I mean, I think that for us, that's probably the biggest thing. And then also, we have a membership director that deals with like the like leadership succession planning and all the reach outs that have to happen, like, hey, are you interested in taking over this particular committee role or this particular committee role? And it's not that you walk into a chapter meeting and suddenly that you're president with our chapter, but there is there has to be that very stringent and methodical leadership succession planning to make sure that you can fill your positions that you need to fill within the
Oh yeah.
chapter. So
Oh
yeah.
yeah. I think a lot of chapters struggle with that because sometimes they get into and sometimes it might just be a very difficult hurdle to get over, but sometimes you get into the same rotation where it's like the same five people, right? So like
Hmm.
someone's the president and then they go back to the line and they come back, because it is tough. Like you're dealing with a professional volunteer organization. So like we allude to pretty often, we don't get paid, right, for this.
Yeah.
And so it's tough to recruit that next person, especially that young person who might have goals that they haven't set yet, or goals that maybe they don't see how the society or the chapter fits into fulfilling those goals.
Hmm.
So it's tough. I would say that's probably the hardest work, is finding those folks to kind of work into the leadership structure and bring along, because you're having to sell them on all of those different things that you can do for them and help them out with professionally, or working towards some kind of professional development goal. We have I have to give credit to the predecessors that I had in the New Jersey chapter. They did a fantastic job of recruiting people, and a lot of times they didn't necessarily have like a role in mind. It was just come along, come to one of the meetings and see where you fit in.
Hmm.
And 9 times out of 10, you find that the person who comes to the meeting, one of the topics or the events or one of the activities or something like that is just something that they're like, oh my God, I'm totally interested in getting involved in that. And you're like, okay, let's go with that. Right. But it's just a matter of getting the person in the room, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
But part of that circle of excellence is routinely filling those spots, right? Filling the president's spot, filling the vice president or the president-elect spot, filling the secretary spot. So those positions are important from the standpoint of not necessarily checking the box, but they're important from the standpoint of the long-term health and viability of the chapter.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's a good point.
And we try to work towards empowering anybody that's within the board or within our chapter to suggest people to us as well.
Mhm.
Like if somebody, because people aren't just breaking down the door to take on a volunteer responsibility a lot of the
They're not.
times. And even though once they get in, they're hooked and they're like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, this is so good for me professionally and personally. I'm getting so much out of this. But I mean, there's a amount of work that comes with it that you got to do outside of your regular day job, but we do empower everybody that's within our circle of the board and our committees as well. Like if you know of someone who is interested in wanting to maybe roll into the executive board position at some moment, let us know who they are. We'll have a
Yeah.
conversation with them, and then maybe we can find a place for them within within a leadership role over a committee. And then, a lot of times we do have a role within our board that's called director at large,
Mhm.
which is like it's kind of an all-encompassing role. And in case somebody moves away or is in a position where they have to step away from the board during the year, the director at large would be that person that would step into their role for that time period.
Oh,
So
wow,
it's
that's
almost like,
interesting.
yeah, it's almost like a director in training kind of, and a leadership role in training. And we really that role is generally a role that people will step out of and step into the secretary, treasurer, vice, the president elect, and then president role for. So it's and it really, I think it gives them the development. And sometimes, there'll be a project that, or one of the events there's no committee person to be able to take over and deal with. And
Mhm.
so it's like, hey, director at large, we'll help you through this, we'll guide you through it, but let's
Mhm.
put you in this role so that you can learn how to lead through this particular type of an event. And
That's fantastic. That's
yeah,
like an
yeah,
apprenticeship kinda setup, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I like that. That's so we have something kind of similar in New Jersey. It's so basically our VP is our president elect, right? Some
Mhm.
chapters are big enough where they have a VP, a president, and a president elect. So, sometimes you kind of have like a someone in the middle there. But
Yeah,
that's the progression. And then you might even have a couple of positions that you have to sit in before you get to those spots.
yeah.
To get into the president's role. But I think the take home is that a lot of chapters have kind of a unique way of doing it. Like, us, we have a chapter president who sits for 2 years. And that's been something that's been around for a while. And we prefer it because it creates some kind of consistency, right? So if you have someone who's starting some initiatives year one, it gives some follow through year two if it took a little extra time
Yeah.
for those things to take root and move forward from there. Now, the downside to that is anyone who's volunteering is now volunteering for a 2 year commitment and potentially a 4 year commitment because
Mhm.
typically our vice president is our president elect, and so they'll sit there as the VP for 2 years,
Yeah.
waiting on deck, so to speak. But yeah, I think every chapter kind of tackles things in their own unique kind of way. So there's
Mhm.
no one size fits all answer. It's just a matter of kind of like testing and figuring out how it works and kind of like fine tuning as you go. Um, I think some of the other aspects of the circle of excellence that are really interesting or really kind of like fun to work with are like different ways of doing what other chapters might do more traditionally. So for instance, the diversity and inclusion aspect of
Mhm.
the circle of excellence, right? It can be as simple as like say Black History Month and doing like a series of social media posts of prominent Black professionals that worked in the insurance industry or the risk
Yeah.
management industry over that month. But it also can get much greater than that. It can be a full blown event, like a dinner or a festival or something like that. Which side do you guys usually fall in that? Is yours more of kind of like a informational kind of aspect? Do you host a celebration? How do you handle the D&I piece?
We typically will have a speaker that's geared towards a diversity and inclusion topic
Mm,
during the month that we choose to do diversity and inclusion. A
mm,
lot of times it's generally towards the mid to the end of the year that we'll plan that particular event. But
mm.
we've brought in a variety of different types of speakers. This past year, this year, we actually were able to get the new chief diversity officer for State Farm. His
Oh,
name's
awesome.
Victor Terry, and he came into our virtual meeting, and just he's done a lot, obviously done a lot of speaking on various circuits, especially on diversity and inclusion topics. And it was just really incredibly eye-opening to hear him speak about
Mm,
his story and his perspective, and then to really bring in the aspects of what we can do as a chapter to better serve a broader and more diverse community of
mm.
people. And it was just, I know that was probably one of our, other than I Day, was probably one of our most highly attended events this year for our chapter membership. I think we had, goodness, like 180 people in that meeting at one moment.
Wow.
And that was all virtual and online as well. And he opened up the floor for people to be able to just ask him questions. And it's not very often you get to sit down with a senior C-suite executive,
Yeah.
and just ask him everyday questions about, what are you reading right now that you would recommend for other people? How do you deal with this type of a circumstance? So it was, I think that was probably one of the best diversity and inclusion events that I had attended this year, and I've been to several, and obviously we got to give a shout out right now to the Pac Northwest chapter, because
Yes.
they have just knocked it out of the park when it comes to what they're doing in the diversity and inclusion space. And I know they had the movie event, didn't they? And they've had
A couple of them.
a couple of them, multiple conversations, because this year's been an incredibly difficult year. Let's just
Mm,
put it plainly, with all of the social unrest and all of the issues that we have dealt with this year, and having candid conversations about that and being open and inclusive to all perspectives on that is the only way to move that conversation forward. So Pac Northwest, goodness, you guys have done such a fantastic job with that. And I do truly appreciate as well that the CPCU Society stepped up and stepped forward and put a statement out about their feelings in what's happening. And when you say feelings, it's kind of interesting to say that about some 75, 80-year-old insurance society, that they
yeah.
they threw out their feelings about that. But we have to be willing to talk that way, and as insurance professionals, because uh, a broader and more diverse community is what we need so that we can better serve the communities that are out there.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, and props to so the grander society as a whole, their diversity and inclusion committee as well has kind of stepped up and done some activities too. So you know,
Yeah.
but obviously that was something that was in place before, and I think rightfully so was energized to act as a result of things that
Yeah.
have come to a head this year. But yeah, Pacific Northwest. I mean, that was something that within the circle of excellence, it basically requires you to have like an activity that celebrates diversity inclusion or encourages the understanding or the learning or the appreciation of diversity and inclusion. They went above and beyond, like
Yeah.
whatever points are assigned to that. I forget how many points are assigned to that one, but they should get like 9 billion points when it comes to that one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that one line item. um, I think what I like about the DNI piece is also just how diverse the actual attainment of those points can be, right? Like where you
Mhm.
can get them from. So I've even heard of chapters doing kind of like a potluck, right?
Yeah.
And you bring culturally diverse food. You go to something that came up in after the society put out that statement something that kind of came to the top of the conversation that we were having in New Jersey was, we seem to always have events kind of like at the same places and the same types of neighborhoods. And we're lucky in that we have some cities, multiple cities that are accessible, that have a very diverse population. But the question is whether or not we were actually taking full advantage of that diversity in terms of where we were holding our events, both in terms of geography, but also in terms of like, do we always go to an Italian restaurant? Like, that's an important conversation to have, because first of all, don't tell any Italians, but not everyone likes Italian food. I have many of my cousins are Italian. Hopefully they don't listen to this or watch this, but they might tar and feather me. But there are ways to show your appreciation of your membership base, and also to invite in people outside of the chapter within the insurance or the risk management community to come to a diverse event that includes a diverse venue, diverse music, even the activities that are associated with it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's I like that line item too. Maybe I should change my answer. But so in terms of 2020, we were kind of talking about this before. When the plan kind of went out the window as far as what you were planning for 2020, did you just kind of take everything and try and create a virtual version of it, or were certain things scuttled and other new things put onto the calendar that would be more, that were more conducive or fitting with kind of the circumstances we were going through?
Well, obviously, we made the shift over to the virtual environment and launched a Zoom account and started using, like we didn't have a Zoom account before this year, and we were like, guys, this is the only way we're going to be able to deliver events to our people. And so we secured a Zoom account. We thought of different ways that we could utilize the speakers that we had planned for the year already, because we have a group that plans our chapter meetings, and they reach out and deal with securing speakers and planning topics just based upon what members have asked for. And so we had to, kind of revamp all of that and go, now it's going to be in the virtual world. There's some of the stuff we did have to scuttle. Obviously we have lunch and learns on a regular basis where everybody goes to one office building and sits in a conference room and kind of has like a speaker that comes in, and you eat lunch and they talk about the various aspects of what their subject is going to be. And so we had to kind of go, well guys, you can't do that because we don't have any offices to go to right now. But we have a group that's called Beyond Bloomington with our chapter, because we have, this is the Central Illinois chapter. It's not just Bloomington, Illinois. We've got Pekin, we've got Peoria around there as well. And we have members that are in those areas. Our Beyond Bloomington group did a live cast lunch and learn. They just and we took props to, what was it? Was it Cincinnati or Columbus, Ohio? One of those groups out there threw out, I think, an Interact. Hey, why don't we do, we're going to do Grubhub cards for our folks for one of our chapter meetings. And I was like, that is a cool idea. But we also turned that into an opportunity for people to be able to give back if they wanted to. And if they wanted to donate their Grubhub card instead of actually having their lunch that day during our virtual meeting, then we were donating them to local hospitals for the medical professionals in there. And I think we were able to gather almost $2,000 worth of Grubhub cards for one hospital over in Peoria area and one in Bloomington. So yeah. And I mean, you have to find new and different ways for your chapter to be able to engage. I have to say, we've really wanted to do a networking event, but we also recognize how difficult it is for people to be online again for something else, because we're all getting that thing called FaceTime fatigue and Zoom
Yes.
fatigue, and
Yeah.
it's a very real thing. So we're trying to be respectful. We are going to do one probably early in the first quarter of next year. But I just saw, I think, did New Jersey just send something out about a virtual networking event, and
We
I was pretty
we did.
excited about that.
We're stealing. So I, as mentioned before, the interest groups also have a circle of excellence that they can
Yeah.
strive for, and there's certain activities and things that are associated with that. Some of them are more thought leadership type items, like articles or sponsoring webinars. I'm hoping some of this, what we're doing, will get some circle of excellence for the chapter, and what the agent and broker interest group is doing with the cell, like a CPCU. We'll get some circle of excellence credit there. But so yeah, we stole the claims interest group, or borrowed your idea of doing a wine tasting.
Yeah.
We're doing a little bit of a take. So this is more not to accuse you of anything, but it's less bougie. Okay, a little bit more brown bag, kind of like $10-12 wines that you can get locally, so it's not like boutique type stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have like an inside person. He's going to give us or our Rita, our executive director, knows this person who's done this kind of in the past. And yeah, it's kind of like our holiday get together. So it's going to be fun. A little wine tasting. We're going to have like some quizzes and prizes and stuff like that. And so that's how we're trying to liven it up. So it's not just another one of those like Zoom meetings where everyone's just kind of staring at each other. We're gonna try and get some activity into it. I forget if I alluded to it last week, but the Dallas chapter had like a happy hour,
Yeah.
or like not a happy hour, like a lunch, networking, where they did like an online trivia game. So I'm gonna try and I'm also stealing their idea, so I'm gonna do the trivia for our event. But that just kind of goes to show you where people that are successful in business aren't always coming up with these novel ideas, right? Like
Yeah.
they find ideas that other people are using, and they either just kind of take them, adopt them themselves, or kind of like put their own twist on them, or put two of them together that no one had ever thought of putting together before. And the same thing remains true with a truly international professional association. If you get exposure to what other chapters and other professionals are doing throughout the world, you're getting ideas not just in terms of what you can do for your chapter, but maybe even what you can do for your company, or your working unit at your company, to kind of liven things up and keep things going. I think what also helped was the chapters, like when we went through this complete change in how we were and weren't going to be able to do things for 2020. Our companies were going through the same changes at the same time, so it kind of helped in a way, because we were flexing our muscles in both places to try and figure out how to adapt and overcome to the situation. And so some of us had some ideas that we were trying in our professional life that we were able to bring back to the association and kind of work with and kind of adopt. So yeah, I think 2020 is going to go down as like that ultimate. It's going to go down as that ultimate foundational year that no one really appreciates until 10 or 20 years in the future. Because
Oh,
I would love to hear your opinion on this one, because I mean, my personal take is what we've had to go through and what we've had to do this year is going to pay dividends for 10-20 years. What are your thoughts on that?
I 100% believe that. And while it's been trying and it's been frustrating and it's been long and it's been difficult to watch, like
Mhm.
the societal events that have unfolded with the pandemic and everything else, I think that this year has built a a sense of grit and resilience in individual people that we haven't a lot of people have never had to experience in their lifetime, because you didn't you haven't lived through a major war, you haven't lived through a, another pandemic, or dealt with, the societal unrest of the 1960s as well. So it's I think that it's also built grit and resilience into our industry,
Mm.
and our ability to be able to rebound and stay afloat and still do the things that we do as an industry to keep the world running, in my opinion, because that's what insurance does, is it keeps the world going around.
Yep.
um, we've been able to shift and adapt and disrupt ourselves in a way that has been positive,
Mm.
because and it's been painful, and it's been challenging, and it's been difficult at times, but that, like you said, is going to like have such a return on the investment that we have made in the hard times that this year has been.
Yeah.
And we, I think the the chapters and the interest groups have just like gotten out of their own heads about how we can do things, you know
Yeah.
would I have ever thought that we would have this, massive monthly running event where, with the interest groups called the Roadshow, where we get, 75, 80, 90, 100 people in to just sit around and chat about insurance, and, and about what the society can do for you, and how, and network with each other every single month for, goodness, we started this, what, in, I think it was in March or it was April, I
I
believe.
think April. Yeah.
I never would have thought about that. The connections that have been made in between people that are within the CPCU society this year, the bonds that have been made, have been incredible,
Oh yeah.
and if you're willing to open yourself up to being a part of those types of things, it's going to pay dividends for you personally as well, because it's helped me to just see I got this really cool thing that I got to look forward to, because I'm a big traveler. I love running around the world, and I have desperately missed traveling, but I've kind of considered all of this other stuff that I've been able to be involved in. That's my moment to travel. I'm just traveling from my chair right now. So
Well,
yeah.
I got to be honest. So the annual meeting last year in New Orleans. Now, granted, I've only been to a couple, so I mean there are some like what I would consider the lifers that have been to, like, the last 15 or 20 annual
Yeah.
meetings. But as far as annual meetings go, as far as just generally conferences go, not just insurance conferences, but conferences go, I would say New Orleans was by and far the best professional conference I've ever been to in my entire life.
Yeah.
And I have this anticipation that, like, it's almost like I'm so anticipating the next one where we can get together, because as great as that one was, I think the next one where we can actually be in each other's personal presence is going to be epic because of everything that happened this year. So
Yeah.
people have made these bonds and these connections and met people from across the country, with relatively low friction because of the virtual meeting environment. And New Orleans, it was the best one. Thank you,
Yeah,
Precious. Um,
absolutely.
she's a little bit of a homer because she is a Louisiana gal, but I agree with her, so that we're on board here. Um, so, but uh, it's you've built these relationships that are these long distance virtual relationships that when you're finally all together, it's going to be epic, because these are all people that it's almost like you've become a staple in their living rooms and their bedrooms and their offices and their, the closet that they had to convert into an office. Like,
Yeah.
you've seen their dogs, you've seen their kids run across the screen and knock things over. I think that next time that we all get together, it's going to be amazing. I don't know. It's just kind of like would it be like the yin and yang? Is that what it is? Like the
Yeah.
the lack and then the euphoria of getting what you lack after not having it for so long, I think.
That's right. All I gotta do is like, it's gonna be great. I
Yeah.
can't wait.
And if it's Orlando, fantastic.
Yeah.
If it's not, and we have to put it off again another year, hopefully we don't. But if we do have to put it off another year, I forget. Are we going back to DC the year after? I
I
forget what
think
2022 is supposed to
I
be.
think they may be doing DC, but I'm not positive.
Okay, so
So yeah.
DC got worked back into the mix. It got like recycled because we
Yeah.
couldn't do it this year. But that being said, so the Circle of Excellence, a component of it is also getting your chapter at least some representation at these events.
Mhm.
And so that helped this year because a lot of chapters were able to most definitely check that box and have people attend virtually when they did the virtual into risk. But again, I think like, I don't know, it might be just like glass half full thinking, but I think the next one, whenever it happens, is going to be like, Burning Man for insurance people. It's going to be like off the wall, just nuts.
Lollapalooza.
Yeah, yeah,
We're gonna have
exactly.
our own Woodstock.
Hopefully safe, hopefully
Yeah,
completely
yeah.
safe, no open
Safe.
fires or anything like
Yeah.
that. But
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But so that being said, I think the circle of excellence for us changed. We had to cut some stuff. Some things we were able to really kind of easily just turn into a virtual kind of thing, and other stuff came up. I mean, they just kind of materialized out of nowhere. So like we had been trying to do a holiday party for a couple of years, and it just turned out that like every single company does their own company holiday party. So sometimes it's tough to just schedule an event where you can get a decent number of the members out. This year it just so happens that, no travel time, almost no conflicts. And even if there was a conflict, someone could like duck into one and then like go to the next one
Mhm.
and whatnot and take part in multiple. So that's kind of like changed things a little bit for us. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see what this next year holds, because the question is whether or not it's going to be better or worse than 2020, right? In terms of COVID and any of the restrictions and stuff, right? I'm hoping that the beginning part of the year, even if it is a little bit worse, means that the tail end of the year is better than the tail end of 2020 was.
Yeah.
But I think a lot remains to be seen in terms of questions being answered on those things and whatnot. You guys are typically platinum, or have you had some off years in terms of
Yeah.
the Circle of Excellence?
I
Typically platinum.
I think we typically are able to obtain platinum, and it's just I think that's all it all goes down to you plan, and then you scrap the plan if you have to, and you're flexible enough to adapt around your plan if something
Mm,
doesn't, isn't going to go exactly the way. And that's what happened this year, is you just had to figure out new and different ways to be able to meet the requirements. I think it's also important that you keep a good relationship with your governor,
mhm,
and talk to them about, and maybe have conversations with them about when you are turning in your COE, because it does go through the governor.
mhm.
This is if you need some more detail around how this happened, or what we did, here's the story behind the tiny little blurb that's in the Excel
That's a
document.
good point.
So, have those, be willing to have those conversations so that your governor understands and can present that story forward for you as well. And that I think is super important. It's just it is on you. Obviously, these are your goals for your chapter or your interest group to meet, but what's cool about it's on you is you get to do really cool creative stuff with it. And
Mhm.
you get to figure out the ways that those things are going to be met in your chapter. Because there's a lot of things that can almost be interchangeable in between them, like engagement in the community could be mentoring college students,
Yes.
it could be a variety of different things. It just depends on what your chapter is able and ready to do.
Yeah.
But I encourage everybody, really think outside the box. about, and I know that that's such a cliched phrase, but you think outside your own head and get out there and talk to other chapters about what they are doing
Yeah.
to be able to meet those requirements in their chapter. And this year has given you an even better opportunity to be able to do that, because I think our chapters are so much more connected than they ever have been in the past.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah, and especially with also with the Interact message board that's up there, I
Yeah.
think there's an opportunity to, like, if you have a question or a concern or something, to get it in front of a ton of peers in a very, quick, short order, and get some good feedback. The other thing I would say is, and this is kind of the municipal risk manager in me talking, though this applies in other areas as well. It's just, it happens to be a endemic in the public sector. Don't just check boxes to check boxes. Okay, like, be inventive, be like thought, put some thought behind it, and don't be afraid to make mistakes, but also realize when something's not working. Like, just because you're doing something to check the box, if like three people show up and they're not having a good time, or you're not really like increasing engagement, or it doesn't seem like people are getting out of it what you had originally intended, mix it up. Like, don't just do something to do something and check the box, right? Make sure you're getting an ROI, especially if you're spending, you know, member dues on whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, you have I think that's also something that comes with the position of being a leader, is there's a certain level of fiduciary duty that you have
Mhm.
to, seriously ask, like, are we getting the best bang for the members' dues that are being spent on these activities or these different plans and initiatives? You brought up a really good point, is don't be afraid to, like, combine them, right? Like, you
Mhm.
can check off 2 or 3 things, and again, do it really effectively and get some good bang for your buck by doing that. So, like, for example, our I-Day, the last one we had in person anyway, we had like a couple of nonprofits that we had like a little vendor area for the first year. So we had
Mhm.
paid vendors, but then we also offered tables to some local nonprofits that our chapters work with
Yeah.
to, hand out some advocacy information, possibly sign up some volunteers. And then we gave them a donation at the end of the event as well to recognize them up in front of the whole crowd that attended. So don't be afraid to, bring those different things together. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if you've ever thought this, because you guys do a pretty decent I-Day as well. I was like, could we get everything on the COE taken care of in one I-Day? Like, I'm just
One fell swoop.
exactly, like, just load it all into like 1 or 2 days and just bang, 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 bang. Obviously, that's not a good idea if that's all you do for the entire year. But I'm saying, is just as one of those kind of like perverse, like, what ifs, like,
Yeah.
if we had to, could we check every single box in one shot?
Yeah.
I
Well,
I think.
we have knocked out like social networking. We have
Hmm,
knocked out some student engagement in our I-Day, because obviously our I-Day is usually held at Illinois State University, and we have
hmm,
students that come, and we've knocked out like a member recognition at it. We have knocked out like a good works event, because it's usually in the fall around, in the month of November. So we'll have people bring in food and donate it to the Midwest Food Bank, and that's up
hmm.
there in Bloomington. So it's like you can knock out a lot, but I don't know that anybody's ever sat around and calculated,
Yeah.
like, how much exactly 1 million COE points from our I-Day. Yeah.
The only problem is, so like with the attendance things, some of them ask like whether or not you've had attendees at the annual meeting, or we used to have regional meetings before COVID.
Yeah.
Um, unless you held your I-Day like at the annual meeting, that's the only
Yeah.
way that you could get that box, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Or like hold it during the annual meeting and have someone at the annual meeting but remote into your I-Day. Now I'm interested. I if
Yeah.
Laura Pinesso is our current president for the New Jersey chapter. Laura, if you watch this, just know that I'm like mad scientisting this thing right now, just like thinking about this. But um, So yeah, so that's really all I have to say. I think the getting a decent score, whether it's bronze, gold, or platinum,
I think
on
it's
this.
silver, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Silver,
bronze,
gold.
silver, and platinum. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, wait, is it? I
It's
forget. I
silver,
don't remember.
gold, and platinum is what
Silver,
it
gold,
is.
platinum. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So getting silver, gold, or platinum isn't really all that difficult when you kind of like you think about it and just kind of like pick it apart, especially if you have like a handful of people working on it.
Mhm.
But that being said, again, really kind of look at what you're getting out of your Circle of Excellence program. It's entirely possible that you could get a silver in the COE, but still be considered, a wildly engaging and effective chapter in what you're doing, right? I think it's one of those things where, like, what do they say for like the Oscars and the Emmys and stuff? Like, it's an honor just to be nominated, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, I think you just have to get into the club, right? And like once you're into the club, like just let the results in your chapter kind of like speak for themselves. Um, would you say that's true, Heather? Or
Yeah, and I think it's once again important about telling the story of your chapter and what you've done in the year, and that's your opportunity to do that. It's not about the status or the plaque on the wall or whatever. It has nothing to do with that. This is the story that you presented as a chapter to the society, and how your chapter has fit into the overall strategic vision of the society as well. So, and this is where chapters like get that opportunity to go rah rah. We this is what we've done, and here's how we've accomplished the goals that we set out for the year. So take it as don't take it as a drudgery chore and like, oh, okay, I just, it's another operating plan I got to fill out or whatever. It's not that at all. This is your opportunity to be creative, to be fun, to figure out new and different ways to be able to tell the story that your chapter has accomplished in a year.
and
So,
you hit on something really awesome. If you do put that in, and if regardless of whether you got like the bottom tier or the middle tier or the top tier, regardless of that, like make a big deal of it
yeah.
and report that to the membership. So even the people that weren't involved in the planning, especially the people that weren't involved in the
Mhm.
planning, make sure to announce that and own it and take pride in that. And it seems silly, right? Like, so for some people it might seem silly where it's just kind of this symbolic thing, like you're not getting a bonus or you're not getting like paid time off or something for it, but it's really one of those things that you should be doing for the joy of doing it, right?
Yeah.
And to your point, if it does become drudgery or something, either you need to like mix it up and try and like what I just did, like just try and find some like off the wall ways of getting the points for things, um, or getting some new voices in and letting them help you mix it up and kind of get things rolling a little bit differently. But really like take pride in it. Like if
Yeah.
you got it and you did it and you committed to get to it, and you know what, if you need to, email Heather Blevins and challenge her to a titanium sing/dance off. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yes. I think you're disappointed you didn't get to sing
I
titanium.
I really am actually, because I was really looking forward to that, and especially the video that would come out of it.
Well, what's funny is, so I don't know if Precious is still watching, but I don't even know if Precious was there to witness this, but it was Wallace,
Yeah.
her immediate past president from the Dallas chapter, that did was complicit in coming up with this competition idea. So
Yes.
I know she's having visions. She knew about it. She was in on it. She was in on it.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
now everyone who does know Wallace, they can have visions of Wallace dancing and lip syncing to Titanium.
My god. All right.
I,
So that needs to happen in one of the CPCU happy hours that's coming
yeah.
up in the near future. Mix it with a little wine, the wine tasting event for New Jersey.
That is true. We could have or you know what we could also do, like what's the show that's on now? The Masked Singer or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, and just try and figure out who it is,
That'd be fantastic. Yeah.
We'll have to, maybe I'll do it at iDay next year. I don't know. So, well, that's all I got. We're up against turkey time here. So you got anything else to leave everyone with?
No, other than this great joke for Thanksgiving, okay?
Oh, late on us.
Why do you not take a turkey to church?
I don't know.
Because it uses foul language. You can tell that one to your kids, Matt. Okay.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if this comes on the tail of our conversation about Wallace or that joke, but Precious said we're definitely going to need a lot of wine. Well, I just want to say, first of all, thank you, Heather. This is obviously yet another thing that you're not getting paid for in terms of financial remuneration. But I appreciate you taking this journey and this I don't even know what to call it. It's like an exploration. It's like an experiment, a mad scientist experiment. But I appreciate you and kind of like jumping off the cliff along with me on this one. And I want to say thank you to everyone that has watched or will watching this. End up watching this in the future, especially if you're a CPCU Society member or kind of working toward it. We appreciate everything that you do, the leaders that are out there that volunteer. You make things amazing. And the society staff, I always forget this one, the people that work at the society level as their 9 to 5, thank you very much for what you're doing as well, because a lot of us crazy people make a lot more additional work for those people. On me, they probably have a pile of work just sitting there that says my name on top of it.
You have a filing cabinet, Matt. Okay. The Matthew filing cabinet.
It says complaint department over the top of it. But it's not me filing the complaints, it's everyone else.
I want to say too, Matt, thank you for your mad scientist brain, because you come up with these cool brainchild ideas of fun things and you say, come join me and jump off a cliff with me, and you're able to rally the support to do that too. So talking about thankfulness, I'm definitely thankful that the CPCU Society brought you and me together somehow in our crazy little rabble rousers group, and we really, I think that what we're building here is fantastic and really is going to help so many people to stay engaged with the CPCU Society. So, and thankful for all you CPCUs and all you candidate members and all you new designees out there. Enjoy your turkey for sure. If you don't eat turkey, are you still vegan, Matt?
I am.
All right. Well, you're gonna
I'm gonna eat what your turkey ate.
Okay. All
or
right.
would he eat?
Yeah. So, but if you don't, just enjoy your Thanksgiving. I know it's going to be a little different this year, but we're definitely thankful for all of you, because you're what makes all of this work. So
definitely, most definitely. Yep. And looks like we have a new fan. So happy Thanksgiving, Precious. And with that, thank you all very much. We appreciate it. Again, however you end up watching this, please like, comment, subscribe, share it. Get the word out there for us, and let us know how we did, and have a happy Thanksgiving. Bye, everyone.